Should you play the Luigi's Mansion series? Is it worth your time? Is it still good all these years later? Well, I'm going to get into it all from Luigi's Mansion 1, 2, and 3. We're going to see what the best ways to play these experiences are, and if you should give it your time. As of recording this, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is about to come out, and I'm sure there's a few people out there that are wondering if this is a series that they should be getting into, and what the best and easiest way to access these games are. So we're going to start off where it all began, with Luigi's Mansion 1, and this is one of my favourite Nintendo games of all time. This released back in the day as a launch title with the Gamecube, and it was really unexpected at the time. People were used to seeing Mario be the star of the show. If you had an N64, you were picking up Mario 64 on day one. That was the launch game, Mario was the star, and you were all in. So when Gamecube launched and there was no Mario, but instead we had Luigi, some people actually really didn't like this back in the day and were complaining about it. I personally at the time though thought it was a really fun and unique different way to have a Nintendo platformer that wasn't just Mario. I thought it was really cool. And besides that, I just love Luigi as a character. He's so scared of everything, and putting him in a horror setting, it's just a perfect match for comedy gameplay, and it done a brilliant job. So like I said, this one is available on the GameCube, so that might be a bit of a tough sell for people. It means you're going to have to pick up an original copy and a GameCube, but don't forget you can play GameCube games on the Wii, so if you have the Wii available, it means you don't have to track down a GameCube system, and just a copy of the game itself. So it does make it a bit more accessible in that way. But this game got a re-release on the 3DS, and at the time I thought it was a bit of a strange release. It kind of reminds me of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD coming out. It was near the end of the 3DS's life cycle, and I think it's just an easy way for them to get a game out and fill the calendar up, and they know fans of the series will buy it. And I still think this 3DS version is really good. Graphically, it doesn't look just quite as sharp and quite as good as the GameCube, but it does have other things going for it. Obviously the 3D effect on the 3DS, and the fact that you can take this game portably is really awesome. And this game really lends itself to that kind of handheld gameplay because it is pretty short, and that's another thing I do want to touch on. With this, you're not looking at a massive game that's going to take you weeks of gameplay. You could complete Luigi's Mansion 1 easily over a weekend, but as long as you know that going in, it's still a really fun and easy experience, especially if you've got younger gamers that are just looking to get into a brand new series. This is a great one. It's not super challenging, it's not super long. When this came out, I was a good bit younger myself, and it's one of the first Mario games that I was able to complete 100%, so it's a nice one to pick up. I still think that 3DS version is really good, so if that's more accessible to you, give that a try. If not, check out the Wii or check out the GameCube and try and pick yourself up a copy of Luigi's Mansion on disc. And then we move on to Luigi's Mansion 2. This one is obviously going to be available in the HD version that we've just spoken about, so that's probably going to be the most accessible way for people with a Nintendo Switch. You're probably going to get the best experience out of that. It looks the best, and it's going to outperform anything that the 3DS could do, but that 3DS version is still really good. And if you've played the first one on 3DS, it may be worth your time just sticking with that and playing the second one on 3DS. Again, this one, I remember the 3D effects being really cool in. So when you shine your torchlight at the screen, kind of pointing outwards, you can really get that diorama effect as if you're looking into the game world. It was a really nice one at the time for the 3D effect. So if you're at all interested in the 3DS or the history of it, just 3D in general, it's worth picking up the version for the 3DS to at least give it a try. And this one took the series in somewhat of a different direction. There are several different mansions. You progress through the game going to each different one, and it almost acts as little worlds or hubs for each one. And some people preferred that at the time. They seen it as an expansion of the series. I myself, though, I wasn't as big a fan of this one. I think I preferred it all being contained in the one mansion. It just made a good bit more sense. And between Luigi's Mansion 1 and 2, I definitely think I prefer the first title in the series. I have have no idea why they haven't decided to bring it to Switch in HD as well. Fingers crossed, with time, we will be able to play this entire series in a really high definition, but for now, unfortunately, that's not the case. Luigi's Mansion 2 is a good bit longer. With it having those different mansions or different worlds, I guess it does kind of lend itself to more of a bite-sized style of gameplay where you dip in for a little bit and then close down your 3DS and continue on at a later point. But overall, the game is a good bit bigger, so you're going to get a bit more bang for your buck out of this one. On the HD version on the Switch, I'm not sure if they've added anything extra as of yet, so we're going to have to wait and see. If you tried out the first game in the series and really enjoyed it, this one isn't as good for me, but it is still definitely worth playing and worth your time. And that brings us on to Luigi's Mansion 3. This one is the best in the series in my opinion. For me, it has the best and most unique gameplay. Adding in the character of Luigi was fantastic. It just added another element to kind of puzzle solving, and when you've had 2 games previously in the series, things were maybe starting to get a little bit stale. You'd done a lot of the kind of puzzling and hunting out of items with the poltergust, and it was interesting to add in that new bit of difference with the Luigi character for part of the puzzle solving. This game is jam-packed full of secrets, collectible items, just the comedy and style of this one, it's really good. It picks up excellently from the previous 2 games, and I think it improves on the majority of things. And the biggest one obviously is the resolution and the graphics. This one's a whole lot easier to play on the eyes than sitting and squinting at an old 3DS. The game looks absolutely fantastic, and I still think visually it's one of the best experiences I've had on the Switch. It's not an absolute powerhouse of a game, but the art style and the way everything blends together, it just looks fantastic, and it shows you don't need a massive horsepower driven system to still have and make a great game. It seems strange because Luigi's Mansion 3 has sold a hell of a lot more than the other 2 in the series, so a lot of people will probably have come to this one first. But if you've never picked up Luigi's Mansion 3 for your Nintendo Switch, I would definitely recommend doing so. It's a really fun game, a really cool experience, but I would urge you to probably play the other 2 games first of all. And with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD coming out, I would say it's probably best to pick that one up and play it before number 3. Because like I said, I think 3 is the peak of the mountain. You might be a bit disappointed if you're going from 3 and then going back to play number 2. Overall though, this series is definitely something different and unique from Nintendo. Right back to its origins on Gamecube, where you were getting a full Luigi game, it was hard to believe. And I can personally believe that we've got another 2 installments in this series. After the GameCube, I thought this one might have been dead and buried, but bringing it back for 3DS was fantastic at the time, and then finding out we were getting a 3rd game in the series on the Switch was amazing. The side characters in this one, Polterpup, Egad, they're really fun, quirky little characters, and I think you'll have a great time with it. The mechanics of the game, shocking the ghosts with your flashlight and then trying to suck them up with the vacuum cleaner, it works really well. I especially loved those mechanics on the GameCube. I think it has the best control scheme for actually catching the ghosts. And as I said, for younger gamers, this one's really accessible. Typically with a lot of Nintendo and Mario franchise games, it is pretty easy and accessible for everyone, but if you want to 100% this, if you want to find all the secrets, catch the hardest ghosts, there is going to be a bit of challenge there for older gamers and for everyone that wants to sink a good bit of time into this. So you can probably tell that throughout this video I've been really positive on the Luigi's Mansion series. It's one of my favourite things that Nintendo has ever done. It just defied expectations, and for that reason it should be celebrated. Luigi, although he's a bit of a scared character, he always has a lot of heart and he will do the right thing. The portrayal we got of him in the Mario movie really showed that, and it had some callbacks to the Luigi's Mansion series that I found really hilarious. So hey, maybe we'll end up getting a Luigi's Mansion movie down the line, but I'm not too sure on that one. The series should be cheap enough to get into. There's various different ways across GameCube, Wii, 3DS, and now obviously your Nintendo Switch that you can play these games. My recommendation would be picking up the first game on whatever way you can. All of the versions of it are decent, but if you have a 3DS and it's the easiest one in terms of going back the way to get a hold of, it's worth it. For the second game, I would recommend probably getting this HD version that's going to be on the Switch. Obviously that visual improvement's going to be a massive upgrade compared to the 3DS. And as for Luigi's Mansion 3, your only option is Nintendo Switch, and it runs flawlessly and is a brilliant experience. So I want to thank you all very much for watching, happy ghost hunting, and I'll see you all in the next one.